There we go.
Hi, I'm Robin Forster with Feel So Alive and Feel So Alive Informed with my guest, Matt McCarl. And Matt, would you like to say hi?
Hi, everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. And I know his background is kind of interesting, and that's one of the things that he is going to be talking about, which is going to be really fun. As you all probably know, I am into health, wellness, and productivity. And so it's going to be very fun to hear from Matt. This is a little bit different than some of the other healers that we've put on. So I am very excited to hear and for Matt to share with us his background and how he ended up where he is. So, Matt, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, I grew up in Junction City, so I was born in Eugene. Uh, Lucky enough to live on an 80-acre farm with my mom and dad and my sister. We raised cattle and, just a small hobby farm, really. And then when I was 19, I was lucky enough to be able to move into my grandma's house in Harrisburg, Oregon, and start taking over it because she was at the point where she needed to be with somebody else and not alone anymore.
Absolutely. I sounds like you're kind of part of that sandwich generation that so many of us are.
Oh yeah.
And let's see, were you talking before? It sounds like after you moved into your grandmother's, you also got married, so you're kind of settling down a little bit.
Yep. Got married, started having kids, and started working in the RV industry. Just life kind of happened. Not really what I had planned, but it's what happens. You just got to roll with it sometimes.
Exactly. Sometimes it's about what happens to us, and then how we choose to respond to it. And I was just thinking about your background for those folks who are watching this on the live or the replay, where you were raised in Junction City, very small agricultural farming town. And
Mhm.
then moving to Harrisburg was, I think, even a smaller agricultural town.
Yes,
And
it
then,
was.
yeah, and I liked what you told me about the next step of what you were doing, the what you were hearing happening
Right,
outside.
exactly. So the house that I moved into was 3 blocks from the fire station. And so I would hear the fire siren go off all the time. The guys would come by in the trucks to do collections for the 4th of July for the fireworks. We do a huge 4th of July celebration out here every year. So they were the ones that would go around and do collections to help sponsor that and everything. And I thought that was really cool. And the siren would wake me up at night. So I thought, one day I thought, I might as well go check this out. And since I'm awake when it goes off, maybe I could be of some service to them. So I started volunteering with the fire department, and now it's 28, almost 30 years later, and I'm still hard at it. In fact, tonight's drill night, so when we're all done, I'll get to go play with my fire buddies.
Excellent. But being part of the fire department, I know you were working in RVs, which is
Mhm.
also very important, but being part of the fire department, it seems like that was kind of part of your not only giving back, but your concern for other people and fitting into your values of wanting to help people.
Yeah, absolutely. Always loved finding a way to help people, and I really working with somebody before, talking with them, did a kind of a retro look at my life, and a lot of that I think stems from my grandparents that lived with us when I was younger. There would be medical emergencies, and there was one night that one of my grandparents were having a big medical emergency, and I felt very helpless. I think that's a lot of what stems through me becoming what I am today is because of that event when I was a younger. I think I was middle school, starting a high school time, and so that just kind of reinforced why I became a fireman even more after looking back at things just a year or so ago.
Yeah, but it's kind of nice to get to an age where you can look back at the tapestry of your life and look at where the threads are weaving through and which ones continue to weave through. For example, when we were talking before we went live, you were talking about becoming an EMT also with the fire department.
Yeah, that was and we were mentioning how 80% of the nation is all volunteer. That leads right into another corresponding number where 80 to 85% of all fire department related emergencies now are medical. So it was very much needed that if you're going to be on the department, if you really want to volunteer and give back to the community, being an EMT is one of the best ways to do that because you're going to be doing a lot more responding in that capacity than just as a firefighter.
Well, and it's this is a fun discussion because my second question, which is what I was looking down at, was how did you get drawn into this line of work and being an EMT? And we haven't even talked about the line of work you're in now, and I think folks are going to be fascinated. So, do you want to talk about when the RV industry crashed and some of your health issues briefly, and what your next step was to provide for your family?
Absolutely. So, as most folks watching this probably realize, 2007, 2008, the RV industry, the whole economy kind of crashed and RVs was hit really hard. And coincidentally, about that same time, I had hurt my back. L4-5 had completely ruptured. So, I had had surgery, was doing all the work, PT, and all that stuff to get back. And just in time for the company I work for to say, hey, we just sold, have a nice life. After 20 years of being with that company, it was kind of a real blow, but they were building the new hospital here locally. I knew folks that worked at the old hospital. They said, somebody with your experience of EMT and stuff like that, we're going to need folks like you to work in the ER. So I was off work very limited amount of time, started working at the hospital, but I had put on a lot of weight because in the RV industry, I worked as a tech, so I traveled a lot, so I ate a lot of road food, stuff like that. Plus, the whole back injury thing, sedentariness. I weighed about 260 pounds at that point in time. So I was looking for a way to get in better shape. Had a little chest pain. My doctor put me on an aspirin, and at 39, I was like, I should not be on an aspirin. And so I found P90X, Beachbody, all that fun stuff. Started doing that. That turned into like a little side business. And then in 2012, while working at the hospital, I had to have a neck surgery because C45 had compressed and pinched the nerve to my right bicep. And so I was off work again, but I had met some folks in the networking of Beachbody that were teaching people how to change their mindset on food. And that was up in Tacoma, Washington. So I went up there for a weekend to learn more for my side business. And they had some local vendors there, one of which was New Leaf Hyperbarics. And as I'm watching their presentation and how they're helping people with oxygen through a pressurized vessel and just seeing how natural this whole procedure was and everything like that, I just couldn't believe there wasn't something like this already in Eugene and how it was a perfect fit for Eugene. So it led me down the path to figure out how to start my own clinic here in Eugene.
Excellent. And for those folks who are not aware of Eugene, Oregon, it's kind of the Birkenstocks granola healer vortex of the West
Oh
Coast,
man.
which is very fun for a lot of us living here. But I'm not at all surprised that you were wondering why is this not in Eugene, and then starting the business here in Eugene, which is very exciting. And it sounds like it's also been good for your health issues to have this. But so tell us, because I know when you were first talking to me about this years ago, I didn't understand why this was helpful. And would you share with folks what it is about hyperbarics and oxygen that is healing?
Oh, absolutely, Robert. So if you think of one of the easiest way to think about hyperbarics, because it's a big word that a lot of folks have trouble kind of figuring out, the easiest way to think about it is oxygen therapy under pressure. So we have you breathing some oxygen from one of our concentrators, 99.5% pure oxygen. And then we have you in a pressurized vessel, similar to kind of what you see behind me. This is like a big hospital style one that I'm standing in the background here. It's called a myoplace chamber, which means multiple people can go in it. We use monoplace chambers, which is one person usually. And we pressurize that vessel to be the same as 11 feet below sea level. And that allows Henry's law of physics to take over in the oxygen so that instead of the oxygen just hooking to the red blood cells to get around, we're actually able to put 4 times the amount of oxygen in your body by letting it dissolve into the liquid or the plasma of your body and helping get 5 times farther into every cell. And since oxygen is a nice natural anti-inflammatory, detoxifier, immune booster, stem cell producer, healer, and it we get to help folks with over 80 different conditions that can be going on. Most folks just like that anti-inflammatory relief and the detox effect. An hour in one of our hyperbaric chambers is similar to taking, say, 40 Motrin or 12,000 milligrams of ibuprofen for the anti-inflammatory relief. Plus, we're detoxing you at a cellular level every time you're in there. So it's pretty cool.
Wow. That is amazing. I know over time you've told me some stories of people, and can you share some of the specific benefits in the less than a minute that we have left so you
Sure.
can get
Well, for
home
my
and
own experience, after my neck surgery, the surgeon told me that he bumped the nerve to these two fingers right here, leaving them numb and tingling, and they should start feeling better in like a month. Well, 8 months later, when I finally got my first hyperbaric chamber in my home, they were still numb and tingling. I started doing treatments 3 times a week. 6 weeks into treatments, the numbness and tingling was gone, has never returned. I also realized that I hadn't taken an ibuprofen in days, about that same amount of time. And now, as long as I treat once a week, I don't eat ibuprofen like Tic Tacs anymore, like I used to do after, like before and after my neck surgery. As well as my wife was stage 4 cancer. She has an inoperable tumor in her brainstem that they can't remove because it's entwined, if you will. Um, but after a year and a half, almost 2 years of treatments, she went into full remission, which was pretty fantastic.
wow.
As well as helping people heal, and a third the time they would normally heal. People fall, they smack their face, get black eyes. We help them heal in like a week. Um, we have folks that come in pre and post surgery to help them heal, detox before and heal after. Folks that have been in motor vehicle accidents will come in um, and get their post concussion syndrome repaired. Post stroke folks that have numbness or tingling, maybe don't have use of an arm, are able to start using that arm again. Not necessarily 100%, but they get 80% back, let's say.
Yeah,
They're
but
able to do things they couldn't do before.
that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so question. A friend of mine has an open wound that they're, whatever it is that they do when they go back in and cut it and make sure that it's staying healthy and stuff. Now, is that something that could benefit?
Absolutely. We actually just had a lady start, just drove up from Merlin, Oregon to spend the week with her daughter to come see us every day this week to start doing that because she has some same blood flow issues. She's sclerodema. I think I'm saying that right. I always struggle with some of those words. But basically, she just has bad blood flow and she has a wound on her ankle that's not healing and a couple of toes. She also has Raynaud's, which is a
Oh,
circulatory issue. So her hands were super cold before she got in yesterday. She got out and her hands were warm. Like, yay! So
wow.
she's going to do a treatment every day this week. So I'm super excited to see how well her wound heals. But yeah, they do. So non-healing diabetic wounds is one of the covered conditions by conventional insurance. So that's so like McKinsey
Oh,
Willamette here locally, the big hospital has a wound center over on West 11th where they use the big big high pressure chamber, not one this big, but big high pressure chambers. So what we do is mild pressure. So we get to treat folks that are all what they call like off label stuff that the hospital can't treat because it's not covered under insurance.
ah.
Or if they do, it's very, very expensive to use their machines.
Interesting. Well, Matt,
Mhm.
I hate to stop you, but I'm watching the timer, and I know that you've got other things you have to do. And was there some kind of a special or something that you wanted to offer folks? Because I know you can't really tell them how to do this at home.
Right, right. Well, not particularly. We do rent and sell our chambers though for folks that want to have them at home, but that's a whole nother conversation. We run an intro special where right now it's $45 for your first treatment. That's a 65-minute session, and then we get you a coupon to get two more right away for only 109. So you can get your first 3 sessions for only $154. If you want to see those folks, if you can, do your first 3 within 7 days to really get you detox, get that inflammation down, get you feeling really good, and then work with you on creating a program that works best for you physically and monetarily as well.
Nice. Well, Matt, thank you very much. And I know that the guys at the fire station are expecting you soon for some training. So thank you very much
Yeah,
for your time.
thank you, Robin. Thanks for having me.